What's up, guys? Today we're going to be changing the oil in this Polaris Sportsman 450. Let's get into it. Okay, so this quad has been cleaned. If you saw my previous video, I cleaned the crap out of it. Now we're going to change the oil. Now the oil in this thing is never been changed since the previous owner had it. It is pretty black. It looks really thin right now because I added some seafoam. As you can see, it just drips right off of here. I added about 2 ounces of seafoam to the oil to really clean out the motor, clean out any of this old gunk. I'm going to completely drain the oil from the oil reservoir here, this oil tank, whatever you want to call this. I'm going to go ahead and remove the oil screen, and I'm going to drain it from the engine sump. So I'm going to get everything out of this I can, and I wanted to break down anything as possible. So if you guys want to do that and really clean out your motor, add a couple ounces of seafoam to your oil, let it run, maybe take it around the block. I let mine run for about 20 minutes, get it nice and warmed up, all the oil mixed around, and you just drain it right afterwards. So I wouldn't recommend running around on it for a while or anything longer than like 30 minutes or so, but this is what I'm going to do to help clean it. I've done this in my 400EX, I've done it in my car, I've done it in my wife's car, I've done it a lot just to really help clean anything out of the motor that you don't want in there. First step, get the foiler level ground like this in a garage or wherever you can if you don't have level ground. Get your oil catch here, and the first bolt is right here. We're going to go ahead and undo this. Okay, so this bolt right here is a size 14. Let's see how bad this oil is. Hopefully you don't shoot out of here all over everything. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Can you see that right there? That is all metal on the bottom of this magnetic drain plug here. Let's see if I can get this. Yeah, look at that. That is all metal sludge. So I'm glad we're changing this. It definitely needed it. You're going to want to make sure you clean off your drain bolt, clean any of that old residue off. There's also a crush washer on here, it looks like. This is plastic, so I'm not sure. Hopefully I can reuse this. I'm going to, because I don't have another plastic one. I got a metal one. I'm going to go ahead and look that up first, actually. But if you got a magnetic drain plug like this, go ahead and clean everything off of it like so. Make sure it's nice and clean before you put it back in, and let this drain out as long as you want. Let's see, you can see the oil here is pretty black and thin as crap, but that's a lot of it from the seafoam. I'm gonna let it drip out, and I'm gonna get back with you. Okay guys, I can't find anything else about adding another crush washer or this plastic washer here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back in and go on to the next step, and I'll show you guys where I'm going from there. So just get this on here. Make sure not to over tighten this bolt because this is a plastic tank here. You don't want to get it too tight and cause a leak. So not sure how tight to get this actually, but I'm just going to get it snug. I don't want to over tighten. So we're just going to go for that right there and see how that holds up. Okay, if you guys want to actually drain completely all the oil from your motor on one of these Polarises, you need to make sure you go to the oil sump, which is over here. It carries about a cup or so of oil in it, and the easiest way to get to it is to get this is a 14 size bolt over here. You get a 14 wrench, and you can go up through here. It's this bolt right here. So we're gonna loosen that. This is how you get all the oil out of this quad. So I already loosened it. We can undo it here and not lose it and drop it. We'll see. Hopefully the oil's not super hot and burns me. It's pretty hot and it got all over me. But as you can see, it's pretty thin. This also has this actually has a crush washer on it, so luckily I got some more of those. But just let it drain out all the way like we did with everything else. The next step also is to remove the oil screen, which is right there. We're going to get that sucker out, but in order to get that out, you're going to have blue Loctite and make sure we're going to have to prime the line. So I've never done this before, so I'm just taking you guys along the ride with me. Hopefully we can figure it out. I'm going to let this drip all the way out. I'm going to clean this up, see if I have a crush washer that fits this, and put it back in, and I'll get back with you guys. Okay, so I did have a crush washer. I put it back on the bolt over there and threaded it back on. Just tightened it till it's pretty snug. Next step is this right here. Okay, I think the first step to get this oil screen out is to go ahead and move that clamp over. We're going to try to get the hose off of this thing right here. Then we're going to start trying to unscrew it from the tank. Okay, so once you remove that clamp, you're going to go ahead and try to pop this thing off, this hose off of this fitting here, and let me tell you, it sucks. So I got some pliers like this, wrapped around and twisted it so it got loose, and then pulled it off by hand because you really don't want to mess up this hose. So now we can unthread this right here. Okay, so I sprayed a little WD-40 around this thing and let it soak for about 5 minutes, and it came right out. So this is your screen. It doesn't look too bad at all. I'm going to go ahead and run some brake cleaner on this and screw it back in. Don't know how far actually. Put some blue thread locker on here and call it good. Put everything back together. Alright guys, so here's the oil screen. Hopefully there's enough light out here. I had to do some dad duty. I had to take care of the baby. So it's been a couple hours since I came out here. I will need to add, what you need to do is you need to add a couple drops of blue Loctite to this or some kind of tape. So I'm just going to put blue Loctite on it. And according to the manufacturer, you have to do at least a minimum of 2 turns. And if you look in here, on the actual oil pan, there's a line, if you can see it right, well, you should be able to see it, that line right there, the nipple of this thing has to line up with that line as you're turning it. So you have to do at least a minimum of 2.5 turns after you add some blue Loctite, and then line it up with that line, and then connect the hose clamp. Then we're going to switch to the other side and change out the oil filter. Alright, so that was exactly 2.5 turns on there, and if you can see if I turn my flash on for you, it lines up perfectly with that line. Not perfectly, but enough. And I'm just going to slip the hose over it, put the hose clamp back on, and switch over to the other side. Alright guys, you probably could have did this earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now. We got an oil filter here. I'm going to take this oil filter out, let the oil drain out, whatever's in it. It's probably going to pour all over everything, and I'm going to put the new one on. I just have a cheap Fram filter. I'm going pretty cheap with this build. I didn't buy the recommended Polaris oils and stuff. I just went with what I found online, and what I'm going to go ahead, I'll show you guys what I'm doing. Alright, so I'm just going with a Fram filter. You know, I'm sure these things, you could probably get a better brand, but if you want to get one of these filters here, it's a PH7317. It fits this. It's a little bit longer than what this Wix filter that was on it. I'm not sure how long that's been on there, but this thing should mount up pretty good. First step you need to do is make sure this O-ring is oiled. So I've got my Rotella T6 here. This is 5W40. This is what I'm going to be putting in the motor. Go ahead and oil this up, and if you actually want to, you can fill this up with this oil, so you don't have to account for it, but I'm probably not going to do that. I'm probably just going to stick it on there because I'm going to have to prime the pump anyway. I'll show you guys how I do that, but I'm going to oil this up, stick it on there, and show you guys what's next. Now, I've seen a couple videos where guys are trying to tell you how to crank these down. I only do it with hand tight. I've only ever done it hand tight with oil filters on my car, my wife's car, a 400EX. All I've ever known is to tighten these by hand as tight as you can get them. You know, don't do super snug. You do not want to crank down on these things because it can crack stuff, and there's no need. It seals up. It's fine. I've never had a leak with them, so hopefully you guys don't crank down on them. Okay, so according to the manual for these 2007 Polarises, this engine takes 2 quarts of oil. If you do not take out the drain plug on the motor, you put in 1 quart and 3/4 of a quart in it because there's still going to be oil in there. But because I drained everything, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 quarts in. I'm going to do right about 2 quarts. I'm going to prime the oil line. I'll show you guys how I do that. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and check the oil level on the dipstick and make sure everything's good. I'm going to start it up, let it run for a minute, and see how it is. So just to start, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 1.5 quarts in here. I'm going to prime the pump, and I'm going to check the oil level from there and then see how it is. To prime the pump, what we're going to do, well, take your dipstick out here, or your funnel. I don't know why I said dipstick. Put your dipstick back in. and you're going to want to find some kind of clamp. Okay, so on your oil tank, there's a vent line right here coming out the top. You're going to want to clamp that about 2 to 3 inches down. I'm not sure if this is going to be clamped enough, but you're going to clamp it, start the motor for about 20 seconds, and then you're going to release the clamp, and you should hear an air hissing sound or some kind of release. We're going to go ahead and try that. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. I'm going to have my assistant here hold the camera while I try to start this rig. I didn't hear nothing. I may not have that clamp tight enough. But I'm going to try it again and see what happens. Okay, so you probably couldn't hear the hissing because my fan is messed up, as I've told you guys in one of the previous videos. So what you can do is squeeze the line with some pliers, just some regular hand pliers, and while it's not on, you can feel the hose is pretty loose, and if you hold it while you start it or have a buddy start it for you, you'll be able to feel pressure build up in the line, and then you let it off slowly and you should hear a hiss. I couldn't hear one because my fan's running, so I felt pressure build up. I believe it's going to work. If it doesn't, you can just keep doing it until you feel a pressure build up or a hiss. The manufacturer says you'll also be able to tell because the motor will run quieter. There won't be a louder sucking noise. So hopefully it is. Right now we're going to check the oil level. And we're going to clean this off, and I'm going to fill it up as necessary, but we're going to call that video good, guys. That's how you change the oil in a 2007 Polaris Sportsman 450. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe if you like this kind of stuff and you want to see more of it. If you want to follow this update for this build, this little project that I got here. And other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and peace.